Michael here. Welcome back to Technoid, a special edition episode of Technoid. Guys, I am joined by a very special guest. Now, before we get into who he is, I must advise you guys, I try to get the best guests as possible whenever I do these live episodes. So far, I've had Theme Park History, Zolotech, Tech Rant. And now joining these elite YouTubers is another elite YouTuber, in my opinion, who is up and coming. He's a great YouTuber. I've discovered him from following this merger from the beginning and almost to the end. I hope it's the end. And he is an amazing YouTuber, Sneed Mobile Tech, who is in my comment section every single video. Always appreciate his feedback, what he gives, and I'm so honored and thrilled to have him on. Sneed, welcome to Technoid.
Thanks for having me, buddy. I'm glad to be here.
Now, before we start the video, I just want to I always like to give YouTubers a chance to introduce themselves on who they are and also what they do. So, Sneed, I would like to give you the floor for a good 2 minutes or a minute even. You introduce yourself, say what you do. I just got to plug this iPad in, so introduce yourself.
Alright, so my name is Sneed from Sneed Mobile Tech. I've been making YouTube videos for, about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And what I focus on in terms of topics and content, for the most part, carrier information, whether it's, the wireless carriers or cable service providers. It's just really important consumer information in the case that I think a lot of people, unfortunately, aren't necessarily privy to and they don't think about. So what I do is try to make that information readily available to the average consumer and user and allow people to become more informed customers.
I see.
So what I've been doing recently, actually, this is kind of the funny part, and this is probably why you brought me on. I've become connected to the Sprint and T-Mobile merger, and it's consumed so much of my research and efforts and making my videos because it's probably the most important thing in the wireless space that's happened in probably the last 7 or 8 years, probably since the transition from 3G to 4G and LTE. So the reason I feel this is so important and the reason I spend so much time on my channel covering it is because it's going to reshape how people's plans are going to be kind of affected in terms of cost. It's going to affect their choices in wireless. It's going to affect network technology and 5G. And I think overall it's just going to reshape the marketplace within the U.S. And I see that in the general public, a lot of people are misinformed on it. So I kind of take the approach that I'm trying to do the public a favor and just bring to the forefront kind of what's happening with the merger.
And that's the reason why I brought you on. This is the go-to. This is the guy I consider the go-to when it comes to cellular news. You can look at me for tech news, but when it comes to the information, this guy gives a straight 100%. And before we start this video, I want to tell every one of my subscribers and future viewers, you must subscribe to this guy. This is not a consideration. This is a must. He is an awesome dude. You heard him. He's informing the average consumer, which is the #1 priority of all tech channels. But unfortunately, some of them get bribed with good stuff. But the point is, you gotta check this guy out. Please give him a subscribe. And anytime you watch his video, hit a thumbs up. So please, guys, before we go any further, hit that subscribe button to Sneed Mobile Tech.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Michael. Kind words.
Thank you. Alright, so let's get into it. So normally, as you guys watch my channel, I have been slightly talking about the T-Mobile and Sprint merger. For a while now, I've remained very, very quiet. And the reason I remain quiet is not because I chose to not say anything. I only stayed quiet because I felt if I was going to get involved in this, I knew I was going to have to release some bias. Now you guys know my logo, you know what I like to do. I like to keep it real 100% without the BS and also keep the biases out. But in this particular situation, being a T-Mobile customer and knowing the backstory and knowing some people about with T-Mobile and Sprint, it's really, really complicated for me to throw my hat in the ring. However, with the recent news and recent events that have happened, I feel as if it's my duty, but I had to do that, But I feel it's my responsibility to step in the ring finally and give my personal take on the Sprint and T-Mobile merger. Now, I will admit, before the video starts, I am going to be favoring the merger. I want to disclaim that. I'm not going to drag it out. I'm not going to do it. I will explain why I'm favoring the merger, and also I will explain in the video why I think there are some benefits, maybe a few drawbacks. I will have to address the other side, but most importantly, I want to explain where I stand. That is the whole purpose of this video, aka whatever you want to call it, podcast collab. Anyway, and Sneed is going to be here to also answer some questions and also some counter arguments that I will propose to him that some people have submitted for the purpose of this video. So let's get right into it. So before we start about where we stand right now, we need to look back. So I'll give a brief rough down, and you can fill in some gaps if you need to. So basically the merger started last year, where T-Mobile had agreed to buy out Sprint for $26 billion. Now, $26 billion, I gotta say, that's a hell of a mullah, and that is quite a bit. Now, originally this merger was already facing some drawback even before it went through to the FCC and the DOJ. There were already sides starting to take whether they were favoring it and unfavoring it. Once it got to the FCC, flash forward almost a year later, there was progress being made here and there, but the FCC was the one that it really came down to. Now, in order for a merger to be approved, it has to be approved by two parties, the FCC, Federal Communications, and also the DOJ, the Department of Justice. Now, the FCC is the first branch, and the DOJ is the big guy, that go-to. So, T-Mobile and Sprint met with the FCC first. Most recently, a couple months ago, they were doing some concessions. In order for this merger to happen, they had to give up a few things. Now, I'm only giving the summary because there was a lot more that happened before they went to the DOJ and the FCC, but I want to keep this, because of time references. So basically, the FCC said in order for this merger to kind of happen, you have to give up something. And that's what T-Mobile and Sprint did. They decided to give up Boost, which gave them the okay on the FCC. So I was looking at it and I said, okay, so they're giving up some assets, they're giving up some prepaid carriers to help sway and give in. And they were also giving up a little bit of spectrum in there somewhere. I think I might be wrong on that.
So, Michael, 1 second. Before you go forward, I just want to clarify one thing.
Okay.
The FCC's requirements for this merger is actually not Boost. What you're mentioning, those are all DOJ components. So
okay.
What you're talking about, the FCC, they're actually 5G components.
Yes.
So what they're saying is we want you to build out a nationwide 5G network for 85% of America within 3 years. And we want it within 6 years to be in 97% of the American public. So they've put time and percentage completion of 5G as their stipulation. So that's the FCC side. What you're talking about with Boost and Spectrum, that's the DOJ side. So you can go ahead with that.
I'm sorry, and thank you for the clear up. I do remember that, but see guys, this is why I had him. This is the go-to. This is what I said. Now, back to the DOJ. So as you were saying, I am explaining the DOJ because it is the most recent. So basically, the DOJ had a lot going. They wanted a lot to be given up in order for this merger to happen. They wanted to give up Boost, a couple of assets, some spectrum. But the most notable one that really had me irritated and got me to this situation that we are in now was when they wanted to create a fourth carrier. And I will explain all that. I'm just laying out what I saw and also what we've seen and why I'm doing this. So when I saw that, I was like, hell to the no. How are you going to make 4 carriers if the whole idea is to merge one with the other and create 3? Well, 3 total, but you're going to have 4, but 2 of them are merging to create 3 total anyway. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
So I didn't know why that made sense. So I looked at the DOJ and I said, okay, look, T-Mobile obviously has got to do something because T-Mobile never gives up. They are very confident in them. And John Ledger, he is a great CEO and I know he will definitely get the job done. It looked like they were about to do it. Everything was going well. We didn't hear any backlash. We didn't hear any negativity until we heard about the lawsuit from the 10 attorney generals. And it just so happens the one attorney general in the goddamn state of New York where I live had to be the motherfucker that spearheads this shit. And also, I'm going uncensored for this video. I'm not sponsored by no bullshit company.
Yeah,
this motherfucker had to be the spearhead along with New Jersey. 2 states. Okay, time out. I live in New York. It's no secret. And I go to Jersey to go to the movies, Costco, and go anywhere. Why the hell does it have to be New York and New Jersey? Because now I don't understand. It blew my mind. Especially. And before we start talking, the thing that blew me away was when I read the case and I read what they were trying to file for. To me, their issue, so this is what they presented, an antitrust issue and also how it won't benefit the average American consumer or the average American in their words, quote unquote. And that's what led me here today, to kind of debunk the bullshit that they read and basically the bullshit that they're trying to spill. And to be honest, this is going to be Thanksgiving for me and you because we're going to rip these motherfuckers apart. tonight. So
Mike, here's the thing. What you're saying is legitimate. What you're saying is you're insinuating it's become very personal and political.
Mm-hmm.
So we all know. I mean, maybe not all of us know, but we should know. New York and New Jersey is Verizon country.
Oh yes.
And because of that, the political influence that ginormous country has, or that huge state has, is going to influence what goes on within court systems. So you take a person, the Attorney General of New York, that filed this lawsuit. Her name is Letitia James. Letitia James is also spearheading an investigation into Trump businesses at the same time that this is going on. So it's not that we're trying to insinuate that she's clearly, a personal attack on Trump, but
absolutely,
it's clearly evident that she is politically very active within the Republican realm. So I only say that because it's possible that it could be part of this equation. I'm not saying that it is. I'm saying that it could be a piece. But the bigger problem is that these 10 attorney generals, it's the timing, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
The merger is near completion, and the merger is near a decision from the DOJ. They kind of saved their final bullets for the very end. But the DOJ is not going to stop. They're going to go ahead and they're going to be meeting this week very early. They'll probably have a decision no later than Wednesday or Thursday, because the first pretrial date is set to Friday, where the state's attorney generals are they've already filed for this preliminary trial date. And I forget the name of the judge. I think it's Marrero. He's the South New York, Manhattan judge that's going to be presiding over this.
Mm-hmm. So as you can see, sorry, go ahead.
So, like, if I was to say, like, how this has played out, the DOJ has been working diligently to find solutions that will create this merger situation that's good for the consumer. But unfortunately, there seems to be a camp of people that don't understand how this is a little bit different than most mergers. All right, so we have 4 carriers nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is our 4th carrier is failing.
Absolutely.
The 4th carrier is Sprint. And for anybody who has Sprint or has had Sprint in the past, there's a reason why they're not with Sprint anymore.
And I do want to say, my family members who live in Florida do have Sprint. And they have told me, even though T-Mobile, they don't get good reception, they do say Sprint does have the reception, but it is very slow. That even though it's like 4 bars, it's not as fast. And I've tried out Sprint, and the way I've tried it out is my friends who live on Staten Island. We don't do speed tests, guys. We just do this on an average everyday use, because we're not going to feed you bench scores. We're going to put you in a perspective of the average consumer, an everyday person. We're not going to be the geek squad and go, the benchmark for the download speeds and the uploads. No, we're not going to do that. On my channel, if you want benchmarks, go to Linus Tech or anybody. So what do I mean? So T-Mobile, when I use T-Mobile, when I'm downloading or uploading for like apps and stuff and posting photos, they're generally about 15 to 30 seconds, depending on how close I am to a tower and also how far.
Right.
But with Sprint, it took a solid 2 minutes to download like a small app, not even, 100 megabits, like 50 megabits. So it's slow, but the idea.
Well, that's very typical. That's very typical of the Sprint network. What you're speaking of with your experiences, you're showing the deficiencies of the network, and this is. I wanted to bring up this little bit of data because I don't like to bore people with numbers, but Sprint has had the same market share of customers in the nation. They've been at about, 12 to 16% since 2012. They have zero growth over the course of the last 7 years.
Like, let that sink in for a second. Let that sink in, everybody. So to those people that are countering, saying Sprint will do fine, because I will read a counter that somebody wrote on my video. I think you've seen it. I'll read his counters and we'll break it down if you agree, disagree. But people are saying that Sprint has the money and will have people buying them. See, why would anyone want to give more billions of dollars to a failing company? Keyword, failing.
Here's the problem, Michael. Sprint, in and of itself as a business, is facing bankruptcy. They have $34 billion in debt. We're talking about Sprint Communications. Their parent owner, SoftBank, which is a Japanese conglomerate, they're very wealthy and they have tons of money. But they are in no position to be investing money into a company that is failing. And the reason I say failing is the network is not improving. Customers are not seeing performance increases. People are fleeing the carrier. And if I could give you perspective, so if 12 to 16% market share, and they haven't shown any growth in 7 years, meanwhile, for the last 2 years, they have been very aggressive in making promotions. They've been giving away free lines. There are customers that are only paying tax on a line of service through Sprint. They are not paying for that line.
And you know something? I would be surprised right now, but I see this happening. Like, I'm with you. I see this.
But Michael, think about that. They're giving away free lines. They're charging $25 for an unlimited line, and they have zero consumer growth.
And right there is the issue why this merger needs to happen. That's the first reason. Is literally, like he's saying, that's the first reason.
Failing us.
That's the first reason. It's failing. Now, I'm thinking about what you said. Now, think, like, if I was like, okay, if I had, like, no side on this merger, I would probably say Sprint is definitely going to go bankrupt. And I have told people many times, way before this merger happened, let's go back a year and almost 2 years ago, and I can't find the article. It just will take me a lot of searching. But there was an article posted about how Sprint was considering a Chapter 11. They were considering the possibility before the merger happened, before T-Mobile decided to say, we'll give you $26 billion. There were 3 attempts at this merger, 2 of them in the past, where T-Mobile and Sprint tried, but they couldn't agree to some terms and conditions the first time. Second time was also trying to make a deal happen in the time frame. And this is the 3rd attempt, and it looks like it's working. Now, had you told me 2 years ago that T-Mobile was going to buy Sprint, I was going to say to you, I can see it happening. But now that I see the problems with Sprint and I see it, I'm saying to myself, that's the best company that should buy it. Which leads me to my second reason. We're going to talk why this merger should happen. The second reason is, who is a better person than T-Mobile? Like, who's better? Now listen, Verizon, no disrespect. Strong service, depending on how much you pay, gives you good reception, gives you good quality, but there's a big problem with Verizon. There's overprices with their consumers. There have been many switches. I actually have some records. Before I did this, I contacted the local T-Mobile store on Staten Island. He gave me a pie chart. So, think of this pie chart. This is an estimate. He didn't give me an exact, but he told me, he gave me an estimate. So, say about 45% of users are Verizon. 25% are AT&T. And this was before the new year. And then you had T-Mobile users. Now, these are people that go to the store to pay their bills, to switch. Within 6 months of that time frame, the pie chart went from 45% of Verizon went down to 25%.
Okay, so what you're saying, this is a regional pie graph. This is what people in the area are using, right?
In this T-Mobile store from Staten Island, this is what people on Staten Island are switching. That percentage...
Okay, so what you have to keep in mind, though, so that's a regional coverage usage. You have to consider national in this, Mike. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is AT&T has about a 34% market share. Verizon has about a 33 to 35% market share. When you combine those two companies, that's 2/3 of the market. That's almost 70%, which leaves 30% of the market share with the 2 smaller companies. And that puts, I want to say, I think Sprint's at about 12 or 13%. Mm-hmm. So what we've seen with T-Mobile, though, is over those same 7 years I gave you about Sprint, mm-hmm. where Sprint has gone from 16 down to 12%, T-Mobile has gone from like 16 up to 23%, mm-hmm. to 24%. So they're showing promising growth. Now, how does a company like T-Mobile show that type of growth? T-Mobile is the youngest and the newest carrier in the U.S. How did they do it? They did it because of aggressive pricing. They did it because they were able to provide good customer care, and they were dependable enough in terms of network performance to get people to stay. Mm-hmm. T-Mobile is the only carrier that has been adding 1+ million customers every quarter for the last 26 quarters consecutive. Now, here's the thing. They've got 80 million subscribers. Sprint has about 54 million. Mm-hmm. Verizon has about 150 million, and so does AT&T. Mm-hmm. 300 million are with the big 2. T-Mobile has 80. They're playing catch-up, and the reason is because they're late to the party. They're the newest carrier.
Of course.
So it's a time restriction. They're playing catch-up, and it's because of time. But see, Verizon and AT&T, they're not shrinking. Mm-hmm. They're very steady. T-Mobile's growing, but they can't really compete
with Verizon and AT&T because of just how late they were to the game.
That's precisely what it is.
Yeah. And here's the thing. With T-Mobile, the reason I said they were also the better company and everything you're saying, Look at what T-Mobile does to the market. Now, way when John Ledger, is that his name, John Ledger? I hope I'm saying it right.
Yeah, that's correct.
So, when he took over T-Mobile, T-Mobile was pretty much shit. Like, I remember the old days of T-Mobile. My dad had it. My family...
Like pre-2011.
Like pre-2011. My dad and mom had T-Mobile since the 90s. That's how old school they went. They were there from the beginning.
Talking about Windstream, when they were a Windstream company?
That's it.
Okay.
My father, he will vouch for that. So, let's talk about now with John Legend. So, pre-2011, T-Mobile was really not the best. When this man came into power and took over T-Mobile, in the span of, I would say, 8 years since then, look at what he's done. And he's not only shaped the market of T-Mobile, but he has shaped the industry of the carrier network. How do I mean that? So look at what he did. He took over Metro. He bought Metro. They brought them in. Look how Metro grew. Look at the prepaid subscribers from what they claim. Now, these are the same people I'm also going to talk about that said that this was not going to happen, that this was going to be a problem. He made a video showing the growth of their prepaid Metro by T-Mobile, showing the promotion of including Amazon Prime, and the thing, and that's another thing. When you buy T-Mobile or any of these things, he includes that's also like a gimme, like Netflix on Us, Amazon Prime. Notice when he did that, when they put those into their lines, immediately the competition had to get there. So Verizon did Apple Music, Netflix on 1 year. AT&T did DirecTV Now. Now, while I will say that's a pretty even matchup for Netflix, let's be honest here. I don't think anybody has DirecTV, not that I know of. And
well, I will say this about those promos you're talking about, and why, it's really good that you brought this up. T-Mobile celebrates value. They give their customers a lot of value. They give their customers Netflix. They give their customers unlimited. They give their customers hotspot data. They give them value in their plans. It's something that Verizon doesn't do, and it's something that AT&T does not do. Those companies force a fee for everything. So if you want certain features, sure, you can have it on Verizon and AT&T, but you have to pay for it. T-Mobile does their best to provide the features free of cost so that the customer feels fulfilled and satisfied with the services they have. And then they celebrate it, and they know that they have that customer, and they're not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
And that was always T-Mobile's problem before, was retention. But now they're able to retain their customers and grow.
See, you already know where I'm heading. You know it. And this is another thing I also want to bring up. So, I don't know when the transition was for everything unlimited, but there was a time when you had to pay unlimited talk, text, and web. Then they had minutes for texting and stuff. This was around, I would say, 2012, 2013. Somewhere, when did everything, before I say what I'm about to say, when did everything go unlimited? Like when they went...
like all carriers, or when did T-Mobile bring it?
When T-Mobile started it, yes.
We're talking about 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Okay, so 5, 6 years ago. So I was a lot younger. 2013 to almost around there, I guess. Yeah, 2013. So when T-Mobile came out and said, we're going to go all unlimited. No more paying for minutes. No more paying for text. No more paying for data. We're going to just give everything unlimited. Do you notice something? Notice how the market... When T-Mobile did it, and they did the fixed rate with the taxes and fees included, because remember, Verizon and AT&T were putting the taxes on the side. They weren't talking about the fee. They're like, oh, they're there, but like we're gonna say, oh, they're kind of included, but you'll still see them. No, T-Mobile did a fixed rate with the taxes and fees included, gave you unlimited everything. It didn't matter, and even if you went over, there was no data cap, no overage fees. And look what happened to the market. It took Verizon a while before they decided to go unlimited to that 40 gigabytes or 20 gigabytes or whatever, the cap and stuff. But the point is that when T-Mobile did that, everybody had to jump and do it because they knew that T-Mobile was posing a threat with that all unlimited. Because every company at that time frame were still offering minutes and still offering. I was in a grandfather plan when this came out because they removed the unlimited data and stuff when I got my first iPhone, the iPhone 5. So you gotta remember, unlimited wasn't that common. But when T-Mobile did it, everybody jumped. And that's what I'm trying to say. When T-Mobile does something in the market, everybody in the cellular industry reacts and they have to play catch up. And I think that's what T-Mobile's got them. Because they know that the competition, they know the average consumer values their dollar. And if we can give you service and quantity and quality, I meant to say, for a steady price that you can afford, why would you want to go to Verizon? Why would you want to go to AT&T when I can get everything that you're offering, my average dollar, to you guys for every feature like we've listed? Why would I want to go to them?
So it's the value you're speaking of. This is a really good angle to consider. So Verizon, AT&T, all the companies actually at one point or another, dating back 7, 8, 9 years, actually had grandfathered unlimited plans. But what they started doing is because people had those plans that predated the modern era where, data usage has become very high because of video consumption. So they were giving these grandfather unlimited data plans. They were honoring them, but they started to bump the pricing, specifically Verizon and AT&T. So what they were doing is they were like, okay, well, you're paying $50 a month for this old grandfathered unlimited plan. We're going to raise it $10 if you want to keep it. Because what they did was they got rid of unlimited plans for a while.
They did. I remember.
So they said if you're going to keep it, then you're going to have to pay extra. So they bumped their pricing, and then they bumped it again, and then a year later they bumped it again. By the time people were realizing this isn't worth it, they're charging me $110 a month for unlimited data. They ended up leaving Verizon and going to T-Mobile because T-Mobile was doing unlimited. And it took about 2 years, but Verizon ended up following suit. They ended up saying, well, we're losing too many customers to T-Mobile. We're not getting any growth. Let's go ahead and offer the unlimited again and see if we can try to get some of those customers back. And they actually did. Some of the customers that they lost actually did come back to Verizon because, again, Verizon has a more reliable network because it is a network that is more mature. They have more towers, they're more densified, and they can handle capacity in cities where you have a lot of people. So that being said, yes, T-Mobile is a trailblazer in the industry. They're the first to provide value-based consumer product. They're giving people unlimited data. They're not charging them additional fees. They're giving them features like bundles with Netflix on us and Binge on us and all these other promos. And it forces the issue to make companies like Verizon and AT&T respond. So when you think about the merger, why should we support a merger between T-Mobile and Sprint? T-Mobile has shown reputation to actually give a damn about their customers. Meanwhile, the big two, in terms of competition, they don't care. They're not very sensitive to what their consumers want. They're more about shareholders and profitability. See, T-Mobile shows growth, they add more jobs. T-Mobile shows growth, they add more call centers. T-Mobile shows growth, they invest in the network. Verizon starts to see profitability slip, they downsize and try to get rid of their employees or get them to retire early or close calling centers and stuff like that. So you see how they're very different in how they're doing this.
It is because they know they're the bigger company. They know they've got the big name. They're like, oh, we can always just make our money back. But then you lose those people, like you say, laying off jobs, downsizing,
But we need to be celebrating T-Mobile and the fact that even if you are a Verizon or an AT&T customer, like myself, I have Verizon. And the only reason I have Verizon is because they offer the best network in my area. If T-Mobile had the best network in my area, I would be with them. Now, T-Mobile's gotten better, and I'm very close to switching to T-Mobile.
I would say
just because of that value.
I would say switch because there is one thing I will tell you. They do sell a cellular booster, so basically it links to that tower that's giving you that low, because this happened in my house in Staten Island. So basically, quick story, guys, before we get back on track. So basically, when we first got there was no signal. It was dead. But obviously, in the time frame, T-Mobile's definitely got a lot better because now we don't need the signal booster anymore. But we had gotten a signal booster. It linked up to the antenna, and it gave us 4 bars. Once it looked hooked up with these 2 things, boom, the whole house became live. 4 bar, 5 bar.
Now, the only issue I have with T-Mobile in my calling area is the actual calling. The LTE speeds are fantastic. The calling is a little bit questionable. So once that's addressed, I will probably end up switching because I know for a fact that I will save money. I'll probably save $20 a month on each line. Because as of right now, Verizon not only charges you for unlimited data, but they also charge you a line access fee, which T-Mobile does not charge. T-Mobile gets you a flat rate, $70 a month for unlimited. Each line after that is $50. And then the third line is $40. And then the fourth line and every line after that is $30. So you'll have 5 lines, say you have a family of 5. You may only be paying about $200 a month for 5 lines, which is excellent. That's a great value. The same package on Verizon might be $260, for example. So $60 a month is worth it to switch if the service is comparable and the network is strong enough in your area. And what we've been seeing is T-Mobile has become more competitive in their performance, which is why we're seeing the growth. 1+ million customers every quarter for 26 quarters consecutively. And they've done this being consumer-centric as opposed to profit-centric. They're profiting. Trust me, T-Mobile's making...
No company in this world doesn't profit.
Exactly. But they're operating for what their customers want and need, and they're still making money, and they're happy doing it.
Exactly. So now that we got our that number 2 of why T-Mobile is the better company, now let's get to the counter arguments. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but on my channel, when I posted my releasing that I'm going to talk about the merger, I was given a long paragraph by a user. Now, please, guys, I always advise to everybody that sees this, what I'm about to read, it is on my T-Mobile Sprint merger in trouble video. I do advise you, please, do not go writing bad comments to these people. Please let them have their opinion. They are more than welcome to. I even gave it a like because, look, that is your counter. That is your claim. I'm not going to dispute it. I did try to give him some, I did try to say what are some benefits, but of course, he saw it in a different way. So again, do not go bad-mouthing people. Not believe that was the back and forth. So looking at what that guy said and what everything, I know it was long and the audio got cut off, but thankfully, guys, if you want to get cut off real fast, basically I was just reading the counter argument to what somebody was saying about the merger. What are your counters to that?
So the concern about the antitrust, which is essentially they're saying we need competitors in order to have a competitive market. Based on just the premise of competition, that is 100% true. The more competitors, the more competitive the pricing. The problem is Sprint is not a legitimate competitor. Sprint is operating with such a small market share. The fact that they offer the best price doesn't even matter. Their network is by far the least comprehensive network nationwide. There are people that legitimately argue if Sprint should even be considered a national carrier because they offer so little native coverage across the U.S. So when people travel, if you just poll the truckers in the U.S., ask them how many of the truckers in terms of percentages have Sprint. I don't think any truckers could reliably have Sprint. They probably have to have either Verizon or AT&T. Those are really their only 2 options. So what I would say to them is, you're saying that we have 4 competitive carriers when in actuality we have 2 big ones, and then we have a small one, and then we have one that is fading. And the simple fact is, they have $34 billion in debt. What the heck is he talking about that they are paying off their debts?
No, he said it was going to be manageable. He said it would be manageable.
How is it manageable when they've been accruing interest on that for the last, it's been like 6-7 years. It used to be less, but it's adding about $3 to $4 billion annually. What is he talking about? And the second thing about them getting more operational revenue, Sprint spends between $4 and $6 billion per year on their network. Verizon spends $20 billion. So who's able to spend on what? These people have these opinions, but they don't understand the numbers of it. Verizon has money. They invest in their network. That's why they're winning. AT&T, on the same note, they spend $15 to $20 million annually on their network as well. T-Mobile spends about $8 to $9 billion annually on their network. Do you get what I'm saying, Michael? They're totally missing the point.
Exactly.
The reason Verizon and AT&T are winning is because they're spending.
Sometimes I feel like when people argue, they have to stick to their story because they know if they're wrong, they just want to keep sticking to the story.
Well, no, they're misguided. That guy he's talking about competition, which is valid. The problem is we don't have competition right now. If we're getting rid of a carrier, we're not actually getting rid of a carrier. Let's straighten something out here.
Yeah, we're not moving.
The DOJ is going to create a 4th carrier.
They are going to.
The DOJ is saying, go ahead and merge. Here are the concessions. What's coming out of this T-Mobile and Sprint merger is going to be used as the foundation to build the new 4th carrier, which, by the way, that new 4th carrier will be more competent and successful than Sprint is right now. Because right now, Sprint is failing.
Absolutely.
So if you want my opinion, if you want to know what I want to see, I want Sprint gone. I don't even care, even if this merger fails. Sprint has to go. Sprint is going to be looking to get a buyout from somebody, whether it's Dish, whether it's Charter or Comcast or Amazon or whoever. Sprint is looking to bail. because Sprint is failing. And for them to say that they're not failing, well, if they're not failing, why are they giving away free lines? Why are they selling lines for $25? Why else? Why are they crying? They opened their books. They opened their financial statements to the DOJ and said, look, we're not making money.
They even released it to the public and said, we don't even have enough to keep going. They were literally begging for this merger to go through.
All I ever see are the jobs that are just terminated from Sprint. So when people say we need competition and the jobs, what if I told you that every year thousands of jobs are lost in Sprint? Every year. So then what does it matter if we have Sprint anymore? In my opinion, we're going to end up with 3 carriers unless something happens for Sprint, whether it's this merger or another acquisition, or there has to be some infusion of money or incentives to Sprint that can help them rebound. And actually, 5G does offer them that possibility. And let's be clear about the semantics here. This is a merger. This is not an acquisition. What AT&T did when they bought Time Warner, that was an acquisition. Why was nobody's hands up in the air for that?
Yeah,
Where are the
I wonder why. Maybe is it because, Time Warner and AT&T just so happen to be just so favorited with the DOJ? Is it a possibility?
But Michael, that was an acquisition. It
wasn't a merger. They bought them out. They pretty much...
Yeah, they just straight up paid cash for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a merger. This is Sprint saying, we're taking Sprint, we're taking their customers, we're taking their debt also. And we're going to use their spectrum assets. We're going to build 5G to compete. A 5G that's probably going to be better than anything AT&T and Verizon can do, because it's true. Sprint has something very valuable that no other carrier has, and that's a portfolio of spectrum holdings that not even Verizon can rival, not even AT&T can rival. So with T-Mobile's know-how, which I trust T-Mobile to build out a good network, this has the potential to be the best 5G network nationwide. And Verizon actually, there's not much they can do about it because Verizon is focusing on millimeter wave, which doesn't travel very far.
Yeah.
T-Mobile is taking the approach of using low-frequency spectrum, which does propagate and travel very far.
It will be able to go, because at a low frequency, it could be distributed evenly throughout all the acres of land that it covers.
Well, think about it. Isn't the goal to be national 5G?
That's the goal. And with low-frequency rays, because I remember the spectrum wave, because it's so short, it's able to hit that area. So think of it like a blanket, kind of. If anybody wants an idea, think of it like a blanket. With low frequency connected to all these antennas, it will be able to evenly distribute, spread out, and cover. That's why they want nationwide 5G. Now, he brought up in his argument, he said, name a company that has merged and their prices didn't go lower. I'll give you one. Remember Disney purchasing Fox?
Yeah.
Well, when Disney purchased Fox, they also not only purchased the merchandise rights to all their streaming services, they also got the rights to their movie companies. But let's focus on that streaming service. So, Disney now owns Hulu. Disney owns ESPN. Disney is Disney. They have 3 streaming services now. They now own Hulu, they own ESPN Plus, and they are coming out with their own Disney Plus. Now, Disney, on the other hand, you could have raised the price of Hulu. What did they do? No, they lowered the price of the base starting and lowered it to a point where people can afford it. It was $7.99 for the basic, and they went down to $5.99. And then their ESPN Plus. I remember at a point it was pretty high. Then they lowered the price with their acquisition of ESPN. Now Disney's coming out with their own streaming service for $5.99. Notice the pattern. $5.99 throughout the board of their... You see what I'm saying? So don't tell me that there are no people that haven't lowered their price. And Disney's even saying, we're going to take all 3 of them and bundle them into one price so you can have all 3 for one price. Because we pretty much own everything. So...
The problem though, Michael, what you're citing an example of where it actually benefited the customer. That's not going to happen with or without this merger. Because the investment into 5th generation networks is going to be so high that with or without this merger, customers' prices are going to increase.
Oh yeah.
At least on postpaid. Because what's going to happen is, in order to have 5G, they're going to have to install a lot of antennas, a lot of small microcells. You guys ever seen those buckets that are on the street poles? You'll see these little, they just look like little mini cell phone towers. In order to put those on every corner, it's going to cost a lot of money. That network investment is going to require T-Mobile, AT&T, Verizon, and Sprint to invest a lot of money into the networks. So their capital investment is going up. With or without this merger, prices are going to increase. It has nothing to do with the merger. I really wish we could go forward in time so we could show the two timelines. Here's with the merger, here's without the merger, and I'm telling you the prices would be the same.
You know
they
what's
would both
funny?
increase.
You know what's really funny is I've actually, I've thought about that argument, going back in time. And also, I'm sorry if I keep reaching over and over, the video's cut down. So guys, if the video, I just want to put this out there, if it's not capturing perfectly like the way I wanted it to be, I will have to unfortunately do an audio dub, but I will release some footage because it does sync up, but it's cutting it out. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if that does happen, in the event, I will release a full audio, or I will just crop in there. But anyway, back to what you were saying. Go ahead.
So, with or without this merger, we're going to see pricing go up because of 5G expenditure. If people want to enjoy virtual reality and augmented reality and autonomous vehicles and IoT and connected robotics and, like all these different 5G related technologies, that investment is going to have to take place. And these cellular network providers are ready to invest those billions of dollars. That's not going to change. And people are going to want to go to a stadium. They're going to want to go to a football game. Do you like the Giants?
No, Jets.
You're a Jets fan? Okay. So how many people fit at MetLife? How many people fit at MetLife Stadium?
I'm sorry. What was that?
How many people do they fit into MetLife Stadium?
Ooh.
It's at least 60,000.
Maybe a little more, 70,000.
Okay, 70,000. Let's say 70,000. Could you imagine 70,000 people on the same cell phone tower? That doesn't work.
No,
so when people are at the Jets game or they're at the Giants game and they're watching a football game and they want to send a Snapchat or they want to send a Facebook live message or something, they can't do it because too many people are in the tower. With 5G, you can. There's enough bandwidth to actually, people could still use their phones normally as they normally would.
Absolutely.
That's impossible with 4G LTE. You can do that on 5G, but it needs the investment. So unfortunately, people have no say in this. 5G is the next generation of networks. The companies are ready to spend billions and billions of dollars into it. Pricing is going to go up. I don't know if it's 5%, I don't know if it's 10%, but it's going up with or without this merger. What this merger does, though, this merger takes T-Mobile and makes them a legitimate, competitive player against the top two. When people say we don't want to lose Sprint, we don't want to lose a fourth carrier, the DOJ is addressing that issue. They're saying, let Sprint merge with T-Mobile. Let's create a new fourth carrier that will still serve as the fourth competitor. And because they won't be working with Sprint's debt and because they won't be working with Sprint's failures, they'll be more competent and capable and able to compete. So whatever happens to Sprint, I don't care. They're a failure in my eyes. I just want to see a new legitimate fourth carrier out of this. And then the fact that T-Mobile is so customer-centric, I want to see them become more powerful so they can continue to influence the market and compete with Verizon and AT&T.
Absolutely, you're right. And you know something? That leads into kind of our transition point now to the last topic. We're going to discuss now the 10 states suing. But again, the prices are going to go up. And also, not only this merger also guarantees that the price will not go up for customers if this merger was to go through. So it does kind of secure some leeway for a few years. And then, unfortunately, we'll have to see that price raise. But
and they're going to be regulating that. Like there's going to be, this is written contractual obligation.
Yeah, it's not
T-Mobile
like
is
they
going to
can
price
do it.
lock for 3 years.
It's not like, and to people saying that, the price will go up, what do you expect? If you're going to invest money, they need to make money back. But it's not like they're doing it because, we can do it. They're doing it because they're spending the money. Like you said, they have to invest the money. And how do
Michael, are you familiar with Netflix?
Yeah.
Okay, so Netflix has been raising their prices pretty steadily for the last year or so. I think has there been 2 price increases in the last 6 months?
Yeah.
Okay, so T-Mobile offers Netflix for free if you're on a certain plan.
Yeah.
Netflix has increased the price twice over that span.
And T-Mobile had to alter it.
T-Mobile did not raise the price. They held out as long as they could until Netflix increased it a third time. And T-Mobile said, sorry, guys, we tried, but it looks like they're raising it so much that we're going to have to ask that you guys pay a couple of bucks to pay the increase.
Well,
they're still paying the $8, but they're just adding that increase to it.
Well, here's the thing. That's always been the case with the Netflix on Us. So the way it works is you get a family plan, 2 lines, you get Netflix on Us. The standard plan is free. But if you get the premium, you have to pay like $1 or $2 extra. Now, you are right. I was part of that plan, so I can vouch. I was never bothered by that $2 increase because it's better than paying the full price for Netflix.
Right.
And look,
Precisely.
when Netflix raised their price, T-Mobile did that, but everyone was reacting like, oh, this is the first time. No, they've been doing it this whole time. They weren't ripping you guys off. It's not like, oh, we're raising the price because we don't care about you. Look, they tried their best. I was part of that promotion, so I will vouch. I will go to the end of the damn earth to say T-Mobile did not rip you off. And that's why it pissed me off. I was like, why is everybody reacting to T-Mobile raising the price of Netflix? They're like, oh, now we have to pay. I'm like, but you've always had to pay. You had the premier price, so what's the surprise here?
See, here's what I've seen T-Mobile doing. So T-Mobile, even when they said, okay, well, we'll give you unlimited data, you can have unlimited data, but after a certain amount, we're just going to slow you down. We're not going to charge you more. Verizon, if you went over, they charged you more.
They charge you, yeah.
So that shows you the difference in the fundamental approach to the business plan. Same thing with AT&T. When you go over, they made you pay more. T-Mobile said, no, we'll just slow you down. We'll let you continue to use the data. So there's a huge difference there. And then the price increases, we see that from AT&T. We see that from Verizon. We really don't see price increases from T-Mobile so much. It's very, very rare that they do so. Their focus is to continue to provide good service at a competitive price. They're always going to be cheaper than Verizon and AT&T. It's just their business
100%.
Model. It's always going to be that way.
Yeah. So yeah, you get where I'm going. You see the gist. So see, guys, the point is not that the whole idea of this discussion is not to be like, oh, we're two guys favoring it. We're breaking it down. I'm not doing as much. He's doing the heavy lifting, so I get like 20 pounds off my shoulders. But listen, see, this is why I brought you on, because you know the numbers. I only can speak for an average consumer, so I can't go to that length. But by having you, you're giving the real broad perspective. I can jump in with the average consumer, and everyone can say, oh, you're not, guys. I know deep down, you're not going to go out and buy an iPod Touch. I know you're going to save your money and do something better with it. So come on, what are you talking about? But now let's get to the last part, the 10 states suing. I want to start this off. I'm going to go right into it. You can break it down, but I got to start this off. I am kind of ashamed that this is how low they're willing to go to stop this merger. To me, when I heard this merger and I heard the claims, to me, okay, 2 things wrong. First of all, antitrust. Where do you see an antitrust in there if they're working with the DOJ to make compromises at every single angle and the DOJ was about to actually let the merger? That's my theory. I thought the merger was going to happen sooner. This just happened and it just looked like it was out of nowhere. That's one. And number 2, the Attorney General of New York, what was her name again?
Letitia James.
Letitia James did a press conference. I watched the conference. She said something to me that irked me in a bad way, and that's why I wanted to go first. She said, we are doing this out of the care for the average American. How dare you say you're doing this out of the best interest for them? You're not doing this out of the best interest for them. Because last time I checked, I've seen more support for this merger than I've seen more support for a Dunkin' Donuts name refresh. I have seen more support to this than anything. I'm almost done. I've seen more support, and I saw the backlash on her Twitter. People are saying, you do not know what's in the best interest. How dare you speak? You don't live in these areas. You don't actually own Sprint. You don't actually know T-Mobile. You don't know anything about the cellular market. You don't know anything about that. All you can speak about is from what a politician standpoint. And my politician standpoint, I don't have any, but I'm telling you right now, this feels like corrupt bullshit. And to me, this is bullshit. This is a fake attempt, in my opinion, to stop the merger. Maybe there is a claim in there. Maybe there is something. Maybe one thing. I'm only going to give it one thing because I think the rest is total bullshit. But how dare you try to speak to the average consumer? You don't earn minimum wage. You don't pay bills. You get the tax dollars. You make salary. You want raise. How dare you say you know what's in the best interest of the average consumer? Work a 7-day week job, make minimum wage, get an apartment in the city. Because I'll tell you right now, it ain't nowhere as near a hell of a way to live. It is expensive as hell. So how dare you speak to the average consumer and say you know what is in their best interest when you know damn well you don't know anything about them or their living styles? How dare you? I'll let the floor is yours.
All right, so what Letitia James is trying to insinuate is she's trying to say that her perspective and her viewpoint on the matter is operating in the best interest of the people. But what she doesn't understand is that there is no competition currently. We still have basically a duopoly. It's still AT&T and Verizon. If she really cared, she would be looking at that angle. How do we get more competition in the market? Well, nobody was saying anything until there was this merger, which means they were okay with a duopoly. Mm-hmm. Well, now that there's a threat to the duopoly, and now it's going to become potentially, these three larger carriers and then a new fourth carrier.
They'll call it a triopoly.
Well, but what I'm saying is, if they really cared, why didn't they address the duopoly before? Why are they talking competition now?
Yeah.
Why were they talking competition 2 years ago? And what the DOJ is doing and what they're working with is the DOJ is trying to establish we're not losing a fourth carrier. We're going to be adding a new fourth carrier. They're addressing the antitrust concern. So her saying, we need more competition, that's what the DOJ is working towards. Mm-hmm. The problem is Makan Del-Rahim, who is the antitrust chief of the DOJ, is a presidential advisor. He is one of the right-hand men of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. And Letitia James is a Democrat, and she's investigating Trump's activities financially and tax evasions and all these other things. And whatever she's doing, it's fine. But it makes it appear like she has an axe to grind. Because when they're waiting up until the last minute to call antitrust, where were they for the last year? Mm-hmm. This merger was proposed in April of 2018.
Why didn't you say
it's now June of 2019.
Yeah, why didn't you say anything last year?
And she's banded together these 9 or 10 other states. She's got the attorney generals from Wisconsin and Vermont and Connecticut, California.
You got Bernie, you got Sandra, whatever her name is.
But the problem that they're going to face is this. The DOJ is still going to make a decision on this merger this week. And there's going to be a decision, and it looks to me like the DOJ is going to side with the merger under a very strict set of guidelines and concessions where T-Mobile and Sprint have to help create the infrastructure for a fourth carrier to replace Sprint. And then they're also going to force T-Mobile to divest Boost, which is a prepaid carrier of about 7 to 8 million customers. They may actually force them to divest Metro, which is about 20 million subscribers, which I really hope T-Mobile doesn't have to do, but they might have to. And the last thing is providing spectrum assets to help the fourth carrier take off. Mm-hmm. If Dish, which is a cable provider, a TV provider,
honestly,
if Dish ends up taking over,
I want to just address something. So if you guys do not know, Dish, like you said, is a cable provider, but they have gone, they haven't been as popular as they once were, but they have the money, and I will tell you, Dish is looking to acquire a phone because they want to compete with AT&T. That was their originality. They were against DirecTV, and it was Dish Network. When AT&T took over, Dish kind of declined. They want a phone. Now, I can say, I want to disclaim, I do have sources that do give me inside news that do work for the city. I don't want to disclaim their information, and I don't want to risk their jobs, but they have told me that Dish is in interest to compete with AT&T. This is not something that's a rumor. This is a fact. Otherwise, they wouldn't be the #1 bidder. They want to compete against AT&T.
Here's the thing, Michael. What you're talking about, Dish is legitimate. The thing is Dish owns a lot of airwaves. They own a lot of spectrum. Yeah. They own a lot of mid-band, and they can actually, with some of the concessions from the merger, they could, within 3 or 4 years, build out a legitimate nationwide network with some roaming agreements from the other carriers like T-Mobile, and with the spectrum out of the merger and their own spectrum holdings, they can actually build a network within probably a few years. Absolutely. And I think that's what the DOJ is doing right now. They're trying to create the foundation of a network to get Dish going over the next few years that will allow them to create a legitimate fourth carrier.
Exactly. And let me just say something. I thought it was strange they wanted a fourth carrier because when they did that, I thought that was an attempt to stop the merger because everyone thought that was impossible. You even went out and said that's kind of impossible. But the way we see that they've tweaked it to allow somebody else to buy, I guess you could say, to like someone else to work under this roof of T-Mobile, work with the same satellite spectrum and stuff. So at first when we heard the news, it sounded ridiculous. But once they broke it down how it would work, it made a little more sense. So then we were like, all right, it doesn't look like the merger's in too much trouble because they could probably get somebody to buy it. And look, all fingers are pointing to Dish to do this because, like you said, they've got the frequency, they've got the needs. So to me, that would be perfect because I thought Amazon was going to jump in there, but we've seen.
Well, actually, what the problem is Dish is facing a timeline issue. Dish has to deploy their spectrum holdings by 2020. Ooh. If they don't, they lose it to auction. So they're kind of forced to if you think about it from a financial perspective,
they're
kind of forced into become a fourth carrier, which their TV side is not doing that well.
Yeah.
So this gives them a new revenue stream, and it makes them, I think it makes them a legitimate player in this where they can become very profitable because
have the potential. They've got it.
What if the DOJ gives them a sweetheart deal? Ooh. You guys get to operate your network over T-Mobile for 3 years while you're building out your own network, launch your spectrum, we'll give you spectrum from the merger, and we're going to give you customers to start. There you go. That's the makings of a new carrier that doesn't have the debt that Sprint has.
Exactly. And see, right there, if we get that fourth merger or fourth carrier, that would work out perfectly for the DOJ. You'll still get it. But look, ultimately, at the end of the day, these 9 states are trying their best to stop this. And it just so happens to be that these 10 states are all Democrat. At this point, it's safe to say 40 out of the 50 states are fine. I mean, it's kind of safe because it's only 10.
They're going to try their best this week to try to get more states on the bandwagon. But the problem is the FCC is pro-merger. They've already laid out their concessions. Mm-hmm. They said it's a go. The DOJ is actually not pro-merger, but the antitrust chief is operating in this approach that if we build the right concessions, maybe we can give this a go. Mm-hmm. So my point is, the FCC and DOJ are working towards a common ground.
Yeah.
The Democratic opposition is opposing it. They're not working towards a resolution. They're working towards opposition. So there's a disconnect there. While you have two parties that are trying to work together, the opposition is going the opposite way. They're trying to block or sue the merger. And unfortunately for them, they're late to the party, for one. And the second thing is, it's only 10 states. And the third thing is, what the DOJ is doing with these meetings and these concessions, it addresses their claim of antitrust.
Yeah.
So if they're saying we're losing competition, the DOJ is building concessions to address the competition. So they really can't do anything about it. The judges, when it gets to federal court, the judges may say, we're siding with the DOJ, the concessions are appropriate.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. The DOJ is meeting the compromises from not only their side, but this lawsuit really is a waste of time. That's why I feel like it's just a fake attempt to stop the merger. Because the DOJ, if they, when they were announced, they said they didn't want to do the merger, but they have been slowly being persuaded. You've been reading about it, I've been reading about it. They're slowly edging to actually giving this thing okay. They were turned around because T-Mobile was willing to meet some, compromises, and they were doing it, and this to me just feels like a low blow. And
ultimately, I feel like the state attorney generals that are suing to block the merger, I think ultimately it ends with a failure for them. Mm-hmm. I think based on timing and based on the claims that they have, I think the DOJ will get the job done in this. And I think, like you said, it's a waste of resources, it's a waste of time, and I think it's a bit in the way of progress, really, because under the current markets that we have, under the current wireless market, we need a better fourth player, and Dish has more hope in it than Sprint.
Absolutely.
And if Sprint can boost T-Mobile and make them a more legitimate competitor against AT&T and Verizon, I'm more with that than continuing to watch the big two dominate the market share at almost 70% market share. So I want to see it distributed a little bit better, and you do that with a better competitor in terms of the new fourth
You're
carrier.
Absolutely right. You're 100% right. Now we've reached the end of the show, and normally I do have a bonus topic, but unfortunately we're running out of time. It's getting late, and unfortunately due to the resources that I have, we're very limited. So we're going to have to end the show a little early, but I promise when I get back to New York, I would like to do a second episode where we'll just talk tech, and also we'll still talk about T-Mobile and stuff. If anything does happen, if you're willing to come back, you let me know.
Absolutely. It'd be good to come back for sure.
Awesome. So guys, if you don't know, before we give our final thoughts, this was a really impossible video. I'm trying to make the best out of it. I'm on vacation. I don't have my MacBook. This would have been easier if I had just brought my MacBook. but I didn't. I'm recording this on my iPad, and I'm recording audio on my iPhone, so this is going to be like a 2-in-1. It's like a surgery. It's like plastic surgery. It's either going to go perfect or it's going to look like Michael Jackson's nose at the end. But final thoughts. Let's get this going. No disrespect to Michael Jackson, rest in peace. But final thoughts. I said I'm for the merger, but this is why I'm for the merger. Now, on the business end, and for me, I feel like T-Mobile, like with this merger, it'll become a price setter instead of a price. It'll be a price maker instead of a price taker. So, for example, they'll be setting the prices, and everybody will be following them. Not only will it benefit the average consumer, but it will also, like you said, nationwide 5G. We don't have to worry about nitpicks of pieces and pieces. We can get this thing spread out. I also like the fact, being a T-Mobile customer, having 5G as home internet, because they are showing that there are signs that 5G can replace home internet, and it can be your home internet. And now that they have T-Vision, their cable, which I want to try out, but I think the price is a little too high. But once they get their 5G stuff going out and they can work out their own internet, boom, you get a bundle, boom. Be like Verizon, but much cheaper.
Right.
And
right.
Lastly, the reason I want this merger to go through is just simple. Sprint is doomed. Like, I've known this. The evidence is out there. If you doubt us, this guy is telling you the evidence. There is right in front of you. I don't know why people keep denying it. And look, Sprint is doomed. T-Mobile is the right company to merge with because T-Mobile is growing. Whereas the big guys, like you said, they're steady. But notice the shift in the market when T-Mobile does something, like I've said. And I know I haven't talked much because you've been doing a lot, but I will say, we agree on most of the stuff. You basically are saying things that I would have said. Now, some of it, like the political stuff, I wouldn't have probably said because, like, although I know a lot, I don't know that much. But still, I agree with almost everything you've said. I haven't had not one doubt. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is this. The evidence is right in front of you. And if this can benefit the average consumer, this will benefit America. Because look, 5G, we're almost to that point. We need 5G. Not as badly as everyone's making it sound, but we need 5G as a growth to continue that cycle. Because if we know anything about evolution, it just evolves. Now, AT&T's 5GE, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But point is this. It helps mankind grow. As we grow, technology grows. It's a cycle. It's a circle that keeps circling and circling and circling. And 5G is the start of that new circle. If we can get this merger to go through, it will not only help with the nationwide, but also, like you say, it will be a big-time player for T-Mobile. They will be able to hold a candle next to them, which I think they should at this point. They are pretty good. And lastly, it's simple. Benefits the average consumer. That's it for me. That's my final thoughts. What are your final thoughts?
I want to see something change in the marketplace. At least we're identifying that, if you take a coverage map, and I don't know if people look at these anymore, but if you look at a Sprint coverage map, it's very, very spotty. There's not a lot of coverage. It's limited to cities, and it's limited to the freeway and the interstate. Mm-hmm. There's not much in rural areas, and there's not much outside of those main developed areas. So if we can get Sprint on board with T-Mobile to become a bigger threat to the big two, we have 3 large carriers, and then we get a new 4th carrier who's kind of built into the market, who can do a better job than what Sprint has done for the last 10 years. Mm-hmm. Sprint has failed with their purchases. Sprint has failed with Radio Shack. They failed with their WiMAX connectivity. They failed in LTE. They failed in 4G. They failed in just business ventures. I mean, they're operating in debt. They're so far in the hole, it's like they need a reset. And I think T-Mobile offers them that reset. And I think we can also get a reset in the marketplace. And, for the people that oppose the merger, that's perfectly fine if you oppose the merger. But what I would say to that is, what do you expect from Sprint moving forward? Because I expect to see more of the same. A deficient network that is going to struggle to compete, and us still working with 2 big carriers, 1 small carrier, and 1 failing carrier. Mm-hmm. I just don't want to continue that direction. I want to see something change. I trust T-Mobile to actually do something more substantial, to put a dent in the national carrier game more than any other carrier. So the way I see it, Sprint has to be they've got to be realigned for their future focus, and T-Mobile's going to be the company that kind of takes them. and uses them the correct way. And I can see T-Mobile doing that, and that's why I have faith in the merger. And I think the DOJ sees it that way, and I think the DOJ will make a decision this week, and all of that will be put to rest for now. But then it's got to run through the paces, and the attorney generals are just a little bit of resistance for the week.
And yeah, that's really all it. So, well, that's that. We finished our stance. I hope you guys understand where I stand on this. I fully support it with his reasons and my reasons also. And this was fun. This was really very good. I hope people were able to get some information out of this from not just the tech side and average side, but also from a guy like you that knows the facts, that has the facts. I hope we were able to enlighten some people that were probably debating the merger or countering the merger. I hope we were able to maybe enlighten you guys. And if you still don't approve the merger, that's completely fine. And you are more than welcome to think what you want. Now, before we end the show, I always give my guests a chance to close out, say any last minute stuff they want to say. So if you have anything you want to say, the floor is yours.
First of all, I want to thank you, Michael, for having me on. It was a pleasure to come on with you and talk tech and talk wireless networks. I had a lot of fun doing it, so I want to thank you for the opportunity. If you don't mind, I'd like to shout out my channel.
Of course, yes, go ahead.
All right, so my channel is Sneed Mobile Tech, SNEED Mobile Tech, and I've got tons of videos on different topics such as this. I also cover things like smartphones and new releases and features and upcoming devices and whatever hoopla and hype is going on in the tech world. I do a lot of live streams. I do a lot of podcasts. I do a lot of update videos. So if you're looking for more of that, please go ahead, by all means, check out my channel. Michael, if you could, please give me a link in the description, and that would be great.
Of course. You know I will be leaving that link. And guys, again, like he said, definitely check his channel out. I want to personally welcome him into my what I consider YouTube family. I have a couple people already on my channel. You will be seeing him up on there. You know, they always say the expression, it's always good to make friends because you need friends in this world. And on YouTube, I haven't had that much friends, but I'm glad we were able to come together, and you're a very good person. And thank you for giving me assistance and helping me. Thank you for being in the comment section, and thank you for being an awesome YouTuber. So again,
thanks,
guys,
you're very welcome.
Please definitely check him out. And thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to talk this with you. I was really happy that you were able to come on. I was so thrilled when you found my channel because I didn't think you would check it out. I'm being honest. Guys, before we end, I just want to say, when I started watching his videos, I was a regular commenter. I was commenting positive things. I liked his channel. I was talking about the merger. We were talking back and forth. Then one day, I get a comment on my video, and it was him. And I was like, damn, he found out. And you really liked what you saw, and that's the whole idea, is to make you guys happy. I don't do this because it's a job. I do it to entertain and also to keep it real. So again, if it weren't for you, it weren't for the subscribers, if it weren't for everybody, I would probably not be doing this today. So thank you.
It's all about the community, Michael. That's right.
Thank you guys so much. And listen, you will be seeing him again. This isn't a goodbye. We're going to be doing more with the hope that we continue to grow as friends and also to grow. You'll be seeing me in his videos. You'll be seeing him in mine, comment section wise anyway. But we got to go. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Please let me know your thoughts down below about the merger. As always, if you like, hit the like button. If you dislike what you saw, hit the dislike button. Thanks for watching and peace.